Hi guys and welcome back to Pure Track Learning. So today we're talking about 4 types of charities in the UK. So I'm going to summarise for you what are 4 types of charities in the UK. So maybe you're thinking about registering a charity, starting a charity, but you're like, what kind of structures are there? How do I register a charity? What are charities? So just off the bat, to register a charity in the UK, you have to register with Charity Commission. However, not all models can be registered for registered charity status immediately, but some can. So it's the CIO model. In order to be a CIO, you have to register with Charity Commission and you will become a registered charity with registered charity status immediately. However, with the other models, you can start them up, and once £5,000 has gone through your bank account, then you can register for charitable status. Your governing document is going to define your charity, what model your charity is, what type of charity you are. Your governing document will basically say who runs the charity, what your objects are, why you were set up, what you are going to do with your money. That's basically what your governing document says, okay? So the first type of charity model is an unincorporated association. So in this one, you have members, and then you have a few people that come together and say, we want to do this sort of community endeavour, and those members can become trustees, and you set up a governing document. You're going to need at least 3 people on the board, and what you're going to have a model, your governing document is going to be a constitution. And so it's unincorporated, which means that the charity does not have its own legal identity. The trustees of the charity are personally liable. They're personally liable for the charity's money, for the charity's assets and debts, okay? So in order to, the charity itself cannot sign or employ of its own right because it doesn't have its own legal identity. The trustees are personally liable, so you're going to have like 2 people sign for anything that you do, etc., etc., and at least 2 people sign for everything that you do, based on the model and what your constitution actually says. The second type of charity is a company limited by guarantee. So yes, if you register as a company limited by guarantee, you can become a registered charity if your objects are charitable. So again, you're going to have certain things in place. You're going to have more than one person as the director, because obviously a company limited by guarantee can be registered with just one person. Company limited by guarantee, the company has its own legal identity. So the trustees, the directors are not personally liable for the company's debts. A company limited by guarantee can employ staff, enter into contracts, you can own, you can lease, etc., etc. So it's a great model to have, company limited by guarantee. Company limited by guarantee, your governing document is going to be your articles of association, your memorandum and your articles of association. That's what you're going to use to set up your company limited by guarantee. So the third model is a trust. So to register as a trust or to start up as a trust, you're going to need a trust deed. Again, the trustees are personally liable for anything that the charity owns. The charity does not have its own legal identity. You might register as a trust if you're unlikely to employ staff and maybe just make grants, for example. A trust can still you can still own land, etc., and buildings. However, like I said, the trust itself doesn't have its own legal identity. So with all of the models, you can still employ staff. However, it depends whether the charity has its own legal identity or whether the trustees are personally liable. So the fourth model is the newest type of charity, and it's called a CIO, a charitable incorporated organisation. And there's 2 types. You've got an association and you've got a foundation type of CIO. So in this one, the charity has its own legal identity. However, you only register with Charity Commission in this state. For a company limited by guarantee, you have to register with Companies House, and then you would register with the Charity Commission once you're applying for registered charity status. Whereas with the CIO, you register for registered charity status immediately. Both models will have a constitution as their legal governing document. The association, if you were an unincorporated association and you want wider membership, then perhaps you will go for a CIO association. If you were maybe a trust and then you wanted to apply to become a CIO, because you can become one, you would go for the foundation CIO, where there's not wider membership, where the trustees are the only members and the only ones who have an input as to how the charity is actually run. I hope that's given you guys a small summary of the 4 types of charities in the UK, and I'll see you next time on Pure Track Learning.